Not only is the United States still the #1 defense spender in the world, but most of the other major spenders are also U.S. allies.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 strongest militaries in the world.
China perceives the U.S. increasingly as a threat, and it wants to find ways of countering the United States, which operates as the premier power broker in Asia.
For this list, we'll be ranking the martial force of various countries based on a number of factors. These include, but aren't limited to, the amount of active duty personnel and weapons caches. Did we leave any out? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. Pakistan. The Pakistan Armed Forces are large in number, with its active duty personnel counting amongst the largest in the world.
The nation has one of the strongest military forces in the world and plays a key role in South Asian affairs.
Paramilitary units assist Pakistan's Army, Navy, and Air Force branches and hold a large amount of power and influence within the country's internal political sphere.
Now, Pakistan has swung between civilian and military rule since its independence from Britain in 1947.
In fact, history has seen the Pakistani military actually take control of government operations, to the point where a deep state has manifested itself within the country. That military deep state is known as the establishment and has staged multiple coups d'etats over the years, while also acting to steer Pakistan's domestic and foreign policies.
Pakistanis have spent more than 30 years under military rule, and it has had a big say during civilian rule too.
Number 9. Turkey. There are 4 levels to the Turkish armed forces, with the leaders at the General Staff overseeing the country's land, naval, and air forces.
This is an exercise where we can show our capabilities in full context in every front, in sea, air, land, and the combination of them.
Their ideological commitment is to the idea of Kemalism, this notion of embracing Western cultural values such as freedom of religion in order to separate Turkey from rule under the Ottoman Empire.
Turkey has focused more on indigenization of its defense systems in the recent years.
There's currently over 350,000 active duty personnel within Turkish armed forces, while the country's status as a member of NATO assists in its protection from active threats. Additionally, there exists a stockpile of nuclear weapons held at the country's Incirlik Air Base as part of Turkey's nuclear sharing agreement with NATO allies.
He said joint drills like FS 2022 are especially important at a time when the world is going through major political, economic, and social changes.
Number 8. Japan. The Japan Self-Defense Forces encompasses all of the varied branches of Japan's military service.
The country's self-defense forces are among the most technologically advanced on the planet, but have not been involved in any conflict since their formation after World War II.
It's broken up into 3 subdivisions, ground, air, and maritime, and stands in stark contrast to the country's history immediately after World War II.
Since then, pacifism has become a part of post-war Japanese culture.
Japan was forced to abandon its military after signing General Douglas MacArthur's Document of Surrender in 1945. But this was changed in 1960 after the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty allowed for the JSDF's formation. Today sees Japan's military cooperating with the U.S. more than ever, while the country also has nearly 250,000 active duty personnel.
Once arch enemies, Japan and the US are now among the closest allies. Tokyo is also trying to amend its constitution in order to have offensive military capabilities.
Number 7. Russia. Although Russia's invasion of Ukraine has severely impacted its current military status, the country's martial history has made it one of the world's strongest and most impactful forces.
How is the Russian army holding up right now?
Not very well. According to the British Ministry of Defense Intelligence, they have lost 25% of the invasion force that they committed to Ukraine.
The fact that Russia was a pivotal player in conflicts such as the Napoleonic Wars and both World Wars cannot be overstated. Meanwhile, the former Soviet Union still exists today as a major nuclear power, while its active duty personnel number over 1 million.
Russia's army has always had a fairly brutal way of warfare. We saw this in Afghanistan in the 1980s, in Chechnya in the 1990s and early 2000s, and of course in their intervention in support of Bashar al-Assad, Syria's dictator, from 2015.
A further 2 million soldiers are on active reserve, while its annual budget for military spending is 4th in the world, at over $61 billion. Number 6. France. The French armed forces keep all their bases covered, with branches devoted to the gendarmerie, a police force, as well as soldiers stationed within the French Army, Navy, even an air and space force.
The academy was set up by Napoleon in 1802. Students flock here to become the future elite of the French army.
Its defense budget is the largest in the European Union and possesses the largest total force within that union. The country's history of military might and conquest is legendary, while its present-day situation sees 11,000 deployed personnel at the time of this writing.
Lieutenant Tanguy is one of roughly 5,100 soldiers deployed by France as part of Operation Barkhane, a mission to fight Islamic extremism in West Africa.
Its primary aims are for the defense of French people, as well as deterring nuclear aggression around the world as a member of NATO. Number 5, the United Kingdom. Her Majesty's Armed Forces defend the United Kingdom, and like France, have historically played a major role in shaping Europe in the present day.
We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender!
The Royal Navy is legendary, while the nation's Army, Royal Air Force, and Royal Marines support all of the UK's self-defense, peacekeeping, and humanitarian efforts.
We've got to take a bit more risk to embrace technology in a much stronger way so that we're an even better armed forces to support this amazing nation.
The UK has a large reserve pool as well, nearing 40,000 in number, while its current active duty service forces numbers nearly 200,000. Additionally, Britain's stance as one of the world's 5 recognized nuclear powers is backed up by its authority as a leading member of NATO. Number 4, India. There are a number of supporting organizations that buffer the efforts of India's 3 major military branches.
Surrounded by hostile neighbors, India has fought numerous wars to protect its border. To deter any future conflict, the Asian nation has built one of the world's most trained and powerful armies.
Special Frontier Force, the Indian Coast Guard, and more all combine to make up the number 2 military in the world in terms of size. India boasts nearly 1.5 million active duty personnel, with another million plus waiting in reserves.
Soldiers have previously been recruited by the Army, Navy and Air Force separately and typically serve for up to 17 years for the lowest ranks.
Meanwhile, the country's lack of conscripted military service means that India possesses the largest volunteer army in the world. The country's military budget exceeds $69 billion, although it does stress the need for manufacturing at home, since India itself imports much of its defense materials from other countries, such as Russia and the United States.
This was a wake-up call for India's military, which has begun to rapidly update its air force with aircraft from France, Russia, and the United States.
Number 3, Israel. The Israel Defense Forces may lack the size of active duty personnel compared to other countries on this list, but they more than make up for this with their skill, training, and vast areas of expertise.
For 72 years, you've heard our story. Tiny country, surrounded by enemies, surviving against all odds.
It's believed that the IDF does possess nuclear capability, but Israel's ground, air, and navy forces are also made up of skilled personnel from all walks of life.
Israeli citizens are required to serve in the military. Most soldiers are drafted at the age of 18.
Conscripted military service means that every citizen of Israel is ready to defend their country, while the IDF is notable for including a large number of women within their ranks.
It was something I was sure that I was going to do.
It's a challenge for girls to be here.
I knew that I wanted to be a combat soldier. I'm here to motivate others.
Meanwhile, the country's arsenal of tanks, aircraft, and other vehicles is also large, due to long-standing tensions within the region. Number 2, China. We're focusing on the People's Liberation Army for this discussion of Chinese armed forces, as opposed to the Republic of China armed forces that defends the islands off mainland China, including Taiwan.
Today, the Telegraph is on a military base in southern Taiwan, where the army is demonstrating its ability to defend the island.
The PLA defends China's Communist Party and centers around the 5 branches of ground, air, rocket, navy, and strategic support. Its defense budget is second only to the United States, while its active duty personnel lead the world at over 2 million, with a further 510,000 on reserve.
The buildup is aimed at meeting Beijing's goal of having a world-class military by 2049.
the 100th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China.
Its tank and submarine fleets are also among the largest worldwide, and China doesn't seem to show any signs of stopping its martial dominance as one of the world's largest superpowers.
To make that China dream a reality and achieve the Great Rejuvenation, Chinese leaders believe they must have the world's most powerful military.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications. Number 1. The United States of America. No nation in the world spends as much annually on defense as the United States of America.
And it certainly spends more on its military budget than any other country does today. That's all pretty well known. But less well known is the fact that the US has around 800 military bases around the globe.
The country's yearly budget exceeds $700 billion, and the U.S. is ranked third in the world in terms of active duty personnel. Over 1 million soldiers from the U.S. 6 main service branches are currently active, while the country is also the sole owner of an active and independent Space Force established in December of 2019.
The reality is the battlefield is changing from planet Earth to space. This is the view of the Asian-Pacific theater. And the threat matrix in space is very different. It's congested, it's contested, and it's competitive.
This is despite the fact that the United States enjoys a comparatively isolated location against the other countries on this list. Still, this doesn't change the United States' status as a superpower, with her armed forces considered as the strongest in the world.
So what exactly is the Army testing? And would the Iron Dome be enough to protect this U.S. territory, which is playing an increasingly important role in America's strategy